Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now in today's one we're checking out the AMD RX 570. Now back in 2017 I thought that the 4GB card made more sense. It offered better value for money. If you were going to spend the extra on the 8GB card, you may as well have purchased the RX 580. That said, when the card arrived that I had planned on testing today, which was advertised as a 4GB version, the 8GB model turned up. So I can't really complain because I've got something for nothing, but for the purpose of this testing, I was a bit disappointed. I thought, oh, we'll test the 4GB card, but no we won't, we'll test the 8GB card. So in 2017, the mid-range 570 was a really good choice. I remember trying to decide between the 1060 and the 4GB 570, and I ended up going with the 3GB 1060, a choice that I was pretty satisfied with. But today we're going to see if the once go-to choice for a lot of mid-range gamers is still decent in 2022. So without further ado, let's get into it and see what this XFX version of the card can do. Now I've often wondered if the parachute will deploy automatically in Warzone, so I guess we'll find out. Yes, it does. I never knew that, so that's always good to know. Where shall we land? Let's aim for that window. Can we get in that window? Come on. Let's get in that. Oh yes, look at that. Sorry, I've surprised myself there. I should be focusing on the benchmark metrics. As you can see, Call of Duty Warzone here runs very well. I'm using the low settings with the high texture option and SMAA T2X. Yeah, so there's not really any jagged edges. I decided to go for the lower options here because I think in a game like this, the higher the frame rate, the better, but we don't want to make it look completely horrible, hence my choice to remain with the high texture options. Even so, we're not quite using all the available video memory for the graphics card, but you can see it comes pretty close at about 7.3 gigs. Let's just see if we can wipe him out here. This will be like my first ever kill in Warzone. No, I'm joking. I've probably had like 2, but there we go. Come on. Yes. I think we are maxing out the VRAM actually. It doesn't seem to be moving from that point. So yeah, I'm using the Ryzen 7 5700G today as well, by the way. Now you may be wondering why am I using the Ryzen 7 instead of the usual i3, simply because I already had the Ryzen in the system. I was testing another video, so I thought we might as well leave it in the system while I stick the card in here. Is this bloke still alive? How many bullets can you take? Oh, no he's not. I thought, how many bullets can you possibly take to the face? But I guess it's not that many. Cyberpunk here, medium settings. We can hit 60 FPS so long as we choose to enable FSR. Here it's set to quality or ultra quality. The exact settings will be up at the top of the video right about now. But yeah, the XFX card itself I'm pretty happy with. I was a little worried at first because the fans didn't seem to kick in until the card hit like 55, 60 degrees and I thought maybe it's just broken, but no, the fans do eventually spin up and the card is fairly quiet, to be honest. It doesn't get too hot either, around about 70 degrees, which isn't concerning by any means. The Ryzen 7 5700G I'm using today, on the other hand, certainly helps in Cyberpunk, where crowd density options can mean that we do see some slowdown on lower core processors, but the focus is of course the 570 here, and it's still doing a pretty good job. This is still a pretty decent card, I have to say. Now in Deathloop here, I decided to once again go for the medium settings with the FSR mode set to quality. You could of course go for a lower preset if you wanted to, but I find that turning the preset up quite high and then messing about with FSR in supported games, in my opinion, is the better way to play. Of course, it's all down to personal preference. You might want to adjust the native resolution or just turn the graphical settings down altogether, but I like the inclusion of FSR in games, so I tend to use it. Here in Deathloop, this actually has FSR 2.0, the new and improved FSR, which honestly is really good. You can barely tell the difference between native resolution and the ultra quality mode, so yeah, that's always nice to see. Is it ultra quality? No, just quality mode. I'm not sure if there is an ultra quality mode here, but it looks good and performs well with at least 60 FPS, a target I didn't necessarily have in mind for this card today, but it's one that isn't too hard to achieve, providing you don't mind tweaking a few settings. Now I was quite surprised by Elden Ring. I thought it would perform a little bit better with a closer to 60 FPS average. I thought we'd hit the cap more often than this, but actually when you think about it, the RX 570 was a mid-range card, and it only makes sense that it does struggle a little bit in the most modern of titles. That said, it's not a terrible experience by any means. There are a few stutters here and there, which I've come to expect with this game, but for the most part, it performs really well. I'm going to go and try and take on a few enemies here. This never ends well. Let's take a look at this guy over here. Let's see what he's all about. This is the point where I usually die in about 3 hits, so yes, get him when he's not looking. That was a lot easier than usual. Now what I don't want is that man in the background with his massive pointy stick to come running over, because he wipes me out. No, oh, here he is. Look, he snuck up behind me. Look, I thought he was over there, but there he is. Okay, one down, another one down. Let's see if we can take you out, shall we? What I don't want is for all of them to notice I've entered a combat situation and then they all start running over with their swords out. That sounds weird. Come on, mate. Let's have you. I don't think this is going to end well. No, come on. Come on. Yes, sneak attack from the back. Let's go. Oh, yes, we've got him. We've got him. Oh, look, here he comes. Here's the other one. This guy gets me every time. Let's move on. Let's move on before he kills me. Now, Far Cry 6 does have an FSR option, but I chose not to use it here. Instead, I went with the native 1080p and the medium preset. Whoops. Just wiped out some civilians. And again, never mind. Look, right, let's go get the tractor. Yeah, the frame rate stays pretty steady. No matter where you are on the map, whether you're in a town, city or whatever, it seems to hold up pretty firmly. Not quite 60 FPS on average, about 59. I'm sure you can tweak a couple of settings in order to hit 60 FPS, or of course you could enable FSR and set it to ultra quality if you wanted to. I prefer to play like this. I think it feels absolutely fine with the RX 570. As you can see, the extra VRAM is coming in handy here because we are exceeding 4 gigs. So the 8 gig card certainly does help in 2022, though if there is a large premium on the 8 gig card where you live, then it is still worth looking at prices of the RX 580 instead. Now in Fortnite, the game ran fine. I've used the low settings here with the epic view distance and anti-aliasing options. I don't really know what to do about the stutter because DX11 and DX12 modes both do have some issues with the 0.1% lows. I have tried different things. I'm not sure if there's one setting I need to enable or disable. All of your suggestions are welcome, of course, in the comments. For the most part, the game is definitely playable. It's just that there is a little stutter here and there that can be quite off-putting, and I think that in a situation where you might be one-to-one with an enemy, it could cost you the kill. So, yeah, not ideal, but in terms of an average and 1% low, as expected, Fortnite runs really well. Let's just pick up a couple of weapons here and carry on with our day. Now, it seems as though the RX 570 is best suited to medium settings most of the time these days, but Forza Horizon 5, which is a very well optimised game, runs just fine with the high preset. This is the high preset with nothing else changed, and as you can see with the Ryzen 7 and 570 combo, we are hitting at least 60 FPS. There are a few drops here and there, but nothing too major and nothing that can be felt during races. I started this race the first time with like a Dodge or a Corvette or something, and the handling was terrible, so I just restarted for the sake of benchmarking purposes with a car better suited to the track. But all in all, performance wise, just fine. You can see that once again the VRAM is exceeding 4GB here, so I'm pretty certain that the 8GB card is working to our benefit here. It makes a lot more sense these days than the 4GB version if the price is right. Once again, thanks to the help of FSR, God of War ran with 60 FPS. The percentile lows were pretty decent as well. The VRAM here is about 3.5GB used, and once again I'm pretty certain that the 8GB card is working to our benefit in 2022. I'm not sure how different the performance would be between the two versions of the card, but perhaps that's something that we will test at a later date. Again, we're not really exceeding 70 degrees. The XFX card I'm using does stay fairly quiet even under load, which is always nice to see. There's nothing much else to say here. This is the original preset. The game looks and runs nicely. I always test this level because I find it quite system intensive. In GTA 5 I switched to Trevor randomly and we seem to be in the middle of a race on 2 mopeds. This bloke here seemed to be riding next to me, so let's just go and cheat. See if we can knock him off here. No, not quite. Go on. Off you get. Okay, we'll switch to plan B, the method that always works. There we go. We'll just take that moped. It's exactly the same. That wasn't necessary at all, but here we are. GTA 5 with the very high settings and the sliders. The graphical quality sliders set to max here means that we still achieve at least 60 FPS. MSAA was switched off because it does take its toll on the performance. This will probably also take its toll on the performance. I'm not sure what button it is to detonate the... Oh, that one. Okay, so Red Dead Redemption 2, the final game tested today. This is the console equivalent settings, the Xbox One X equivalent settings. Yeah, things run fairly well. I mean, even in Saint Denis, which is a pretty busy city, no matter what you're doing, you won't see that many frame dips. It will, of course, drop below 60. It's not a solid experience, but it's a better experience than you'll get on any console currently, especially as the game hasn't received any sort of next-gen patch, at least not at the time of this video. I just got out of that buggy accidentally, and then my horse ran off right in the middle of me being wanted, which is typical. So I've switched to plan B. I'm just going to try and circle back around to escape the cops, and it looks as though it's worked, which is always good. But there we go. The 570, still pretty decent in 2022. Overall, today's results have surprised me, but let me know what you think of this card down below. As always, leave a like if you enjoyed it, leave a dislike if you didn't, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hopefully I'll see all of you in the next one.